Now, our next principal consultant has a very important message. It's about data. His famous words are, "Everybody is ready for artificial intelligence except your data." With more information and insights on this, Louis de Gavea.
Everyone is talking about AI, everyone wants to jump into AI, but let's be honest, we've got to ask the question, is your data ready for AI? From our experience, we've noticed that everyone is ready to use AI, but in reality, their data is just not ready for AI. So before we start any AI project, we've got to make sure that your data is ready. I'm going to focus on 6 key principles that if you follow it, hopefully your data will be ready for AI before you start that AI project. So the first principle we're going to talk about is diverse data. At the end of the day, all businesses have large sets of data, structured, unstructured, and a variety of this data. But if we don't use this data correctly or harness it, the models will be biased or will not give us the correct results. So at the end of the day, we need to ensure we cater for this diverse data, find a way to bring it together, whether it be in a data warehouse or a vector store. It's more likely to be a vector store if we focus on AI models, but the point is we have to be able to cater for this, get all that data together and make it available for those AI models. Without doing that, again, as mentioned previously, we're going to have biased models giving results that do not reflect the true nature of what is going on in the business. The next point to discuss is timely data. So the time that data is arrived, to be made use for AI models is very important. For example, if we're going to be doing fraud detection, at the end of the day, the data needs to be as real time as possible. There's no use in finding some sort of fraud on data that is a day old and reacting to it because the fraud's already taken place. So timeliness of that data is very important. Whereas if we are using it for data that changes slowly and has less of an impact, like stock replenishment, then it's not as important. But again, the time that the data arrive needs to match that use case. So again, it's very important to ensure that the timeliness of the data matches your use case so that that AI model can generate the right results, that you can react on that information in the correct method. The third point we're going to focus on is accurate data. So let's focus on that. Garbage in is garbage out. Everyone's heard this, everyone knows this. Yet we tend to make that same mistake of not giving us accurate data. So at the end of the day, we've got to ensure that we can make sure that the data is accurate as possible, cleansed as possible, and represents what we needed to going into these AI models. And once we get that correct, we can then be more confident that the model's solutions or results is more aligned and we can act on it, knowing that it's accurate. So accuracy of that data is vital to ensure that these models produce the correct results that we can act upon. The next point we need to focus on is how secure is your data? Now you might be thinking, wait, we're just talking about how we can use this for AI models, but at the end of the day, business has got a lot of data and sometimes you don't want to use this data in the models because it's not secure enough or whatever the reason may be. But don't worry, from that perspective, there's different ways we can approach it. One of it is ensuring that the data is masked. Because let's be honest, certain data you just need to know you have it. You don't necessarily need to know what its contents is. So we can focus on securing data by masking it, but also at the same time ensuring the right people have access to the right data. So again, we can ensure that AI models have access to data while other people do not have access to data. And again, we just need the output from the AI models to be accurate. We don't necessarily always need to reproduce that sensitive data. So again, security around the data is vital, it's important, and we need to ensure that for the AI models. And a lot of people, sometimes don't think about that, or rather don't provide any very sensitive data. But the problem with that is, again, you might be getting biased in your models again. So again, we need to ensure that we can provide secure data, but do it in such a way that we either remove the sensitivity of the fields by masking or obfuscating. But again, those are all types of solutions we can provide. So the fifth principle that we need to cover is making sure that data is discoverable. So once we know we have this great data, we need to make sure it's discoverable, meaning that we need to make it available for our models, make it available for general business, because again, we need to ensure that this data is available. We don't want it to just be for our models, but that means we need to make this data discoverable. But again, we can't just make this data available. We need to provide the business context around it. And this is where data catalogs help quite a lot, in the sense that we can say, we have this data, but at the same time, we can overlay this with business glossary, who's the owner of the business, what business process does it support. And once you start doing that and making that available, whether it be for business or AI models, it can add great value. Because if you have data, but not knowing the context of that data, it is not very useful. So just having a random piece of data without knowing what it's about is not very useful. You know, just imagine you have free text of someone complaining about something. If you don't have the context, you don't know what it's for. Whereas if we start saying, okay, this free text came from our call center of people calling in, you can then know, say, okay, that data is based on the satisfaction of our customers. And then you can start putting more context around that and being more accurate around with that data and acting on that data. Then the last point that we need to focus on is consumable data. Consumable data is talking about how can we make this data consumption available for consumption. Okay, so at the end of the day, AI models need to be provided the data, but we need to put it in a format that AI models can make use of that data. So in many cases, it might be a vector data store, but in other cases, it might be a data warehouse, data lake. And again, this needs to be done in a specific format. So we need to get into specific destination to make it available for AI, but at the same time, we might need to do some sort of formatting to put it in a workable format. So again, it's just to highlight that we need to put this data in a format that is consumable so that AI models can work with it. All right, we focused on those 6 principles. If you follow those 6 principles, you are more likely to get more valuable insights out of your AI and be ready for your AI project.